This one is mine, Graham said. It's my case. I'm going to go bring the bastard in. Sure, Connor said. I mean, Graham said, I'd rather go alone. Of course, Connor said. It's your case, Tom. Do whatever you think best. Connor wrote down Eddie Sakamura's address for him. It's not that I don't appreciate your help, Graham said, but I'd rather handle it myself. Now, just so I have my facts straight, you guys talked to this guy earlier tonight, and you didn't bring him in, that's right. Well, don't worry about it, Graham said. I'll bury that in the report. It won't come back to you, I promise you. Graham was in a magnanimous mood, pleased at the prospect of arresting Sakamura. He glanced at his watch. Fucking A. Less than 6 hours since the original call, and we already have the murderer. Not bad. We don't have the murderer quite yet, Connor said. I'd bring him in right away if I were you. I'm leaving now, Graham said. Oh, and Tom, Connor said, as Graham headed toward the door. Eddie Sakamura is a strange guy, but he's not known to be violent. I doubt very much that he's armed. He probably doesn't even own a gun. He went home from the party with a redhead. He's probably in bed with her now. I think it would be advisable to bring him in alive. Hey, Graham said. What is it with you two? Just a suggestion, Connor said. You really think I'm going to shoot this little shithead? You'll go out there with a couple of black and whites for backup, won't you? Connor said. The patrolmen might be excitable. I'm just giving you the background. Hey, thanks for your fucking support, Graham said. And he left. He was so broad, he had to turn slightly sideways to go through the door. I watched him go. Why are you letting him do this alone? Connor shrugged. It's his case. But he's been as aggressive all night in pursuing his case. Why stop now? Connor said, let Graham have the glory. After all, what has it got to do with us? I'm a cop on extended leave, and you're just a corrupt liaison officer. He pointed to the videotape. You want to run that for me before you give me a ride home? Sure, I rewound the tape. I was thinking we could get a cup of coffee too, Connor said. They make a good one in the SID labs. At least they used to. I said, you want me to go to get coffee while you look at the tape? That would be nice, Kohai, Connor said. Sure, I started the tape for him and turned to leave. Oh, and Kohai, while you're down there, ask the night duty officer what facilities the department has for videotapes, because all these need to be duplicated, and we may need hard copies of individual frames, especially if there's trouble about Sakamura's arrest, as Japan's bashing by the department. We may need to release a picture to defend ourselves. It was a good point. Okay, I said. I'll check. And I take mine black with 1 sugar. He turned to look at the monitor. The Scientific Investigation Division, or SID, was in the basement of Parker Center. It was after 2 in the morning when I got there, and most of the sections were closed down. SID was pretty much a 9 to 5 operation. Of course, the teams worked at night collecting evidence from crime scenes, but the evidence was then stored in lockers, either downtown or at one of the divisions, until the next morning. I went to the coffee machine in the little cafeteria next to latent prints. All around the room were signs reading, "Did you wash your hands? This means you and don't expose fellow officers to risk. Wash your hands." The reason was that the SID teams used poisons, especially criminalistics. There was so much mercury, arsenic, and chromium floating around that in the old days, officers had sometimes gotten sick by drinking from a styrofoam cup that another lab worker had merely touched. But these days, people were more careful. I got 2 cups of coffee and went back to the night duty desk. Jackie Levine was on duty. With her feet up on the desk, she was a heavyset woman, wearing toreador pants and an orange wig. Despite her bizarre appearance, she was widely acknowledged to be the best print lifter in the department. She was reading Modern Bride magazine. I said, "You going to do it again, Jackie?" "Hell no," she said. "My daughter." "Who's she marrying?" "Let's talk about something happy," she said. "One of those coffees for me." "Sorry," I said, "but I have a question for you. Who handles videotape evidence here?" "Videotape evidence?" "Like tape from surveillance cameras. Who analyze it? Make hard copies, all that." "Well, we don't get much call for that," Jackie said. "Electronics used to do it here, but I think they gave it up. Nowadays, video either goes to Valley or Medlar Hall." She sat forward, thumbed through a directory. "If you want, you can talk to Bill Harrison over at Medlar, but if it's anything special, I think we farm it out to JPL or the Advanced Imaging Lab at USC. You want the contact numbers, or you want to go through Harrison?" Something in her tone told me what to do. "Maybe I'll take the contact numbers." "Yeah, I would." I wrote the numbers down and went back up to the division. Connor had finished the tape and was running it back and forth at the point where Sakamoto's face appeared in the mirror. "Well," I said, "that's Eddie all right." He appeared calm, almost indifferent. He took the coffee from me and sipped it. "Terrible. Yeah, I know." "It used to be better." Connor set the cup aside, turned off the video recorder, stood and stretched. "Well, I think we've done a good evening's work. What do you say we get some sleep? I have a big golf game in the morning at Sunset Hills." "Okay," I said. I packed the tapes back in the cardboard box and set the VCR carefully in the box too. Ghana said, "What are you going to do with those tapes?" "I'll put them in the evidence locker," Kana said. "These are the originals, and we don't have duplicates." "I know, but I can't get dupes made until tomorrow." "Exactly my point. What do you keep them with? Why don't you keep them with you? Take them home?" "There were all sorts of departmental injunctions about taking evidence home. It was against the rules, to put it mildly. He shrugged. "I wouldn't leave this to chance. Take the tapes with you, and then you can arrange the duplications yourself tomorrow." I stuck them under my arm. I said, "You don't think anybody at the department would?" "Of course not," Connor said. "But this evidence is crucial, and we wouldn't want anybody to walk by the evidence locker with a big magnet while we were asleep, would we?" So in the end, I took the tapes. As we went out the door, we passed Ishiguro. still sitting there, contrite. Kana said something quickly to him in Japanese. And Shigeru jumped to his feet, bowed quickly, and scurried out of the office. Is he really so scared? Yes, Kana said. And Shigeru moved quickly down the hall, ahead of us. Head bent low. He seemed almost a caricature of a mousy, frightened man. Why, I said. He's lived here long enough to know that any case we might have against him for withholding evidence is not strong. And we have even less of a case against Nakamoto. That's not the point, Kana said. He is not worried about legalities. He is worried about scandal. Because that's what would happen if we were in Japan. We came around the corner. Ishiguro was standing by the banks of elevators, waiting. We waited too. There was an awkward moment. The first elevator came, and Ishiguro stepped away for us to get on. The doors closed on him, bowing to us in the lobby. The elevator started down. Kana said, in Japan, he and his company could be finished forever. Why? Because in Japan, scandal is the most common way of revising the pecking order, of getting rid of a powerful opponent. It's a routine procedure over there. You uncover a vulnerability, and you leak it to the press, or to government investigators. A scandal inevitably follows, and the person or organization is ruined. That's how the recruit scandal brought down Takeshita as prime minister, or the financial scandals brought down Prime Minister Tanaka in the 70s. It's the same way the Japanese screwed General Electric a couple of years ago. They screwed General Electric in the Yokogawa scandal. You heard of it? No? Well, it's classic Japanese maneuvering. A few years ago, General Electric made the best scanning equipment in the world for hospitals. GE formed a subsidiary, Yokogawa Medical, to market this equipment in Japan, and GE did business the Japanese way, cutting costs below competitors to get market share, providing excellent service and support, entertaining customers, giving potential buyers air tickets and travelers checks. We call it bribes, but it's standard business procedure in Japan. Yokogawa quickly became the market leader, ahead of Japanese companies like Toshiba. The Japanese companies didn't like that and complained about unfairness. And one day, government agents raided Yokogawa's offices and found evidence of the bribes. They arrested several Yokogawa employees and blackened the company name in scandal. It didn't hurt GE sales in Japan very much. It didn't matter that other Japanese companies also offer bribes. For some reason, it was the non-Japanese company that got caught. Amazing how that happens. I said, is it really that bad? The Japanese can be tough, Kana said. They say business is war, and they mean it. You know how Japan is always telling us that their markets are open? Well, in the old days, if a Japanese bought an American car, he got audited by the government. So pretty soon, nobody bought an American car. The officials shrug. What can they do? The market is open. They can't help it if nobody wants an American car. The obstructions are endless. Every imported car has to be individually tested on the dock to make sure it complies with exhaust emission laws, foreign drugs can only be tested in Japanese laboratories on Japanese nationals. Foreign skis were once banned because Japanese snow was said to be wetter than European and American snow. That's the way they treat other countries. So it's not surprising they worry about getting a taste of their own medicine. Then Ishiguro is waiting for some scandal? Because that's what would happen in Japan? Yes, he's afraid that Nakamoto will be finished in a single stroke. But I doubt that it will. Chances are, it'll be business as usual in Los Angeles tomorrow. I drove Connor back to his apartment. As he climbed out of the car, I said, "Well, it's been interesting, Captain. Thanks for spending the time with me." "You're welcome," Connor said. "Call me any time if you need help in the future. I hope your golf game isn't too early tomorrow. Actually, it's at 7. But at my age, I don't need much sleep. I'll be playing at the Sunset Hills. Isn't it a Japanese course?" The purchase of the Sunset Hills Country Club was one of the more recent outrages in LA. The West Los Angeles golf course was bought for a huge cash price, $200 million in 1990. At the time, the new Japanese owners said no changes would be made. But now the American membership was slowly being reduced by a simple procedure. Whenever an American retired, his place was offered to a Japanese. Sunset Hills membership was sold in Tokyo for $1 million each, where they were considered a bargain. There was a long waiting list. "Well," Connor said, "I'm playing with some Japanese." "You do that often?" "The Japanese are avid golfers, as you know. I try to play twice a week. Sometimes you hear things of interest." "Good night, Kohai." "Good night, Captain." I drove home. I was pulling onto the Santa Monica freeway when the phone rang. It was the DHD operator. "Lieutenant, we have a special services call. Officers in the field request assistance of the liaison." I sighed. "Okay." She gave me the mobile number. "Hey, buddy." It was Graham. I said, "Hi, Tom. You alone yet?" "Yeah, I'm heading home." "Why?" "I was thinking," Graham said, "maybe we should have the Japanese liaison on hand for this bust." "I thought you wanted to do it alone." "Yeah, well, maybe you want to come over and help out with this bust, just so everything is done by the book." I said, "Is this a CYA?" "I meant cover your ass." "Hey, you're going to help me out or not?" "Sure, Tom, I'm on my way. We'll wait for you." Eddie Sakamura lived in a small house on one of those narrow, twisting streets high in the Hollywood Hills, above the 101 freeway. It was 2:45 a.m. when I came around a curve and saw the two black and whites with their lights off and Graham's tan sedan parked to one side. Graham was standing with a patrolman, smoking a cigarette. I had to go back a dozen meters to find a place to park. Then I walked over to them. We looked up at Eddie's house, built over a garage at street level. It was one of those 2-bedroom white stucco houses from the 1940s. The lights were on, and we heard Frank Sinatra singing. Graham said, "He's not alone. He's got some broads up there." I said, "How do you want to handle it?" Graham said. We leave the boys here. I told them no shooting. Don't worry. You and I go up and make the bust. Steep stairs ran up from the garage to the house. Okay, you take the front and I'll take the back. Hell no, Graham said. I want you with me, buddy. He's not dangerous, right? I saw the silhouette of a woman pass one of the windows. She looked naked. Shouldn't be, I said. Okay then, let's do it. We started up the stairs single file. Frank Sinatra was singing My Ray. We heard the laughter of women, and it sounded like more than one. Christ, I hope they got some fucking drugs out. I thought the chances of that were pretty good. We reached the top of the stairs, ducking to avoid being seen through the windows. The front door was Spanish, heavy and solid. Graham paused. I moved a few steps toward the back of the house, where I saw the greenish glow of pool lights. There was probably a back door going out to the pool. I was trying to see where it was. Graham tapped my shoulder. I came back. He gently turned the handle of the front door. It was unlocked. Graham took out his revolver and looked at me. I took out my gun. He paused, held up 3 fingers, count of 3. Graham kicked the front door open and went in low, shouting, "Hold it, police! Hold it right there!" Before I got into the living room, I could hear the woman screaming. There were 2 of them, completely naked, running around the room and shrieking at the top of their lungs. "Eddie, Eddie!" Eddie wasn't there. Graham was shouting, "Where is he? Where is Eddie Sakamura?" The redhead grabbed a pillow from the couch to cover herself and screamed, "Get out of here, you fucker!" And then she threw the pillow at Graham. The other girl, a blonde, ran squealing into the bedroom. We followed her, and the redhead threw another pillow at us. In the bedroom, the blonde fell on the floor and howled in pain. Graham leaned over her with the gun. "Don't shoot me," she cried. "I didn't do anything." Graham grabbed her by the ankle. There was all this twisting bare flesh. The girl was hysterical. "Where is Eddie?" Graham said. "Where is he?" "In a meeting," the girl squealed. "Where?" "In a meeting." And flailing around, she kicked Graham in the nuts with her other leg. "Ah, Christ," Graham said, letting the girl go. He coughed and sat down hard. I went back to the living room. The redhead had her high heels on, but nothing else. I said, "Where is he?" "You bastards," she said. "You fucking bastards." I went past her toward a door at the far end of the room. It was locked. The redhead ran up and began to hit me on the back with a fist. "Leaving him alone. Leave him alone." I was trying to open the locked door while she pounded on me. I thought I heard voices from the other side of the door. At the next moment, Graham's big bulk slammed into the door, and the wood splintered. The door opened. I saw the kitchen lit by the green light of the pool outside. The room was empty. The back door was open. Shit. By now the redhead had jumped on my back and locked her legs around my waist. She was pulling my hair, screaming obscenities. I spun around in circles, trying to throw her off me. It was one of those strange moments where in the middle of all the chaos I was thinking, "Be careful. Don't hurt her." because it would look bad for a pretty young girl to end up with a broken arm or cracked ribs. It would mean police brutality, even though right now she was tearing my hair out by the roots. She bit my ear and I felt pain. I slammed myself back against the wall, and I heard her grunt as the breath was knocked out of her. She let go. Out the window, I saw a dark figure running down the stairs. Grim saw it too. Fuck, he said. He ran. I ran too. But the girl must have tripped me because I fell over, landing hard. When I got to my feet, I heard the sirens of the black and whites and their engines starting up. Then I was back outside, running down the steps. I was maybe 10 meters behind Graham, and 30 feet when Eddie's Ferrari backed out of the garage, grounded the gears, and roared down the street. The black and whites immediately took up pursuit. Graham ran for the sedan he had pulled out to follow while I was still running from my own car, parked farther down the road. As his car flashed past me, I could see his face, grim and angry. I got into my car and followed. You can't drive fast in the hills and talk on the phone. I didn't even try. I estimated I was half a kilometer behind Graham, and he was some distance behind the 2 patrol cars. When I got to the bottom of the hill, the 101 overpass, I saw with the flashing lights going down the freeway. I had to back up and pull around to the entrance below Mulholland, and then I joined traffic heading south. When the traffic began to slow up, I stuck my flasher on the roof and pulled into the right-hand breakdown lane. I got to the concrete embankment about 36 after the Ferrari hit it flat out at 160 kilometers an hour. I guess the gas tank had exploded on impact, and the flames were jumping 15 meters into the air. The heat was tremendous. It looked like the trees up on the hill might catch on fire. You wouldn't get anywhere near the twisted wreck of the car. The first of the fire trucks pulled up, with 3 more black and white. There were sirens and flashing lights everywhere. I backed up my car to make room for the trucks, then walked over to Graham. He smoked a cigarette as the firemen began to spray the wreck with foam. Christ, Graham said. What a fucking cock-up. Why didn't the backup patrolman stop him when he was in the garage? Because, Graham said, I told them not to shoot at him, and we weren't there. They were trying to decide what to do when the guy drove away. He shook his head. This is going to look like shit in the report. I said, still, it's probably better you didn't shoot him. Maybe. He ground out his cigarette. By now, the firemen had gotten the fire out. The Ferrari was a smoking hulk crumpled against the concrete. There was a harsh smell in the air. Well, Graham said, no point staying around here. I'll go back up to the house. See if those girls are still there. You need me for anything else? No, you might as well go. Tomorrow is another day. Shit, that'll be paperwork until we drop. He looked at me. He hesitated. We in sync about this? About what happened? Hell yes, I said. No way to handle it differently, he said. Far as I can see? No, I said. Just one of those things. Okay, buddy. See you tomorrow. Good night, Tom. We got into our cars. I drove home. Mrs. Senio was snoring loudly on the sofa. It was 3:45 in the morning. I tiptoed past her and looked in Michelle's room. My daughter lay on her back, her covers tossed aside, her arms flung over her head, her feet stuck through the bars of the crib. I tucked the covers around her and went into my own room. The television was still on. I turned it off. I pulled off my tie and sat down on the bed to remove my shoes. I suddenly realized how tired I was. I took off my coat and trousers and threw them onto the television set. I lay down on my back and thought I should take off my shirt. It felt sweaty and grimy on my body. I closed my eyes for a moment and let my head sink back into the pillow. Then I felt a pinching and something tugging at my eyelids. I heard a chirping sound and thought in a moment of horror that birds were pecking at my eyes. I heard a voice saying, "Open your eyes, Daddy. Open your eyes." And I realized that it was my daughter, trying to pull my eyelids up with small fingers. "Yeah," I said. I glimpsed daylight, rolled away, and buried my face in the pillow. "Daddy, open your eyes. Open your eyes, Daddy." I said, "Daddy was out late last night. Daddy is tired." She paid no attention. "Daddy, open your eyes. Open your eyes, Daddy. Open your eyes, Daddy." I knew that she would continue saying the same thing over and over until I lost my mind or opened my eyes. I rolled onto my back and coughed. "Daddy is still tired, Shelley. Go see what Mrs. Arsenio is doing." "Daddy, open your eyes." "Can you let Daddy sleep a while? Daddy wants to sleep a little longer this morning." "It's morning now, Daddy. Open your eyes. Open your eyes." I opened my eyes. She was right. It was morning. What the hell? Second day. "Eat your pancakes." "I don't want any more." "Just one more bite, Shelley." Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window. I yawned. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. "Is Mommy coming today?" "Don't change the subject. Come on, Shell. One more bite, please." We were sitting at a kid-sized table in the corner of the kitchen. Sometimes I can get her to eat at the little table, when she won't eat at the big table. But I wasn't having much luck today. Michelle stared at me. "Is Mommy coming?" "I think so. I'm not sure." I didn't want to disappoint her. "We are waiting to hear." "Is Mommy going out of town again?" I said, "Maybe." I wonder what going out of town meant to a 2-year-old. What sort of image she would have of it. Is she going with Uncle Rick? Who is Uncle Rick? I held the fork in front of her face. "I don't know, Shell." "Come on, open up. One more bite." "He has a new car," Michelle said, nodding solemnly the way she did whenever she was informing me of important news. "Is that right?" "Uh-huh, black one." "I see. What kind of car is it?" "Sadie's." "A Sadie's?" "No, Sadie's." "You mean Mercedes?" "Uh-huh, black one." "That's nice," I said. "When is Mommy coming?" "One more bite, Shell." She opened her mouth and I moved the fork toward her. At the last moment, she turned her head aside. Pursing her lips, "No, Daddy." "All right," I said. "I give up. I'm not hungry, Daddy. I can see that." Mrs. Arsenio was cleaning up the kitchen before she went back to her own apartment. There was another 15 minutes before my housekeeper Elaine came to take Michelle to daycare. I still had to get her dressed. I was putting her pancakes in the sink when the phone rang. It was Ellen Farley, the mayor's press aide. Are you watching? Watching what? The news, Channel 7. They are doing the car crash right now. They are? Call me back, she said. I went to the bedroom and turned on the television. A voice was saying, reported a high-speed chase on the Hollywood freeway, southbound, which ended when the suspect drove his Ferrari sports car into the Vine Street overpass, not far from the Hollywood Bowl. Observers say that the car hit the concrete embankment at more than 100 miles an hour, instantly bursting into flames. Fire trucks were called to the scene, but there were no survivors. The driver's body was so badly burned that his glasses melted. The officer in charge of the pursuit, Detective Thomas Graham, said that the driver, Mr. Edward Sakamura, was wanted in connection with the alleged murder of a woman at a downtown location. But today, friends of Mr. Sakamura expressed disbelief at this charge and claimed that police strong-arm tactics panicked the suspect and caused him to flee. There are complaints that the incident was racially motivated. It is not clear whether police intended to charge Mr. Sakamura with the murder, and observers noted that this was the third high-speed pursuit on the 101 freeway in the last 2 weeks. Questions of police judgment in these pursuits have arisen after a Compton woman was killed in a high-speed pursuit last January. Neither Detective Graham nor his assistant, Lieutenant Peter Smith, was available to be interviewed, and we are waiting to hear if the officers will be disciplined or suspended by the department. Jesus. Daddy, just a minute, Shell. The image showed the crumpled, smoking wreckage being loaded onto a flatbed truck for removal from the side of the highway. There was a black smear on the concrete where the car had struck the wall. The station cut back to the studio, where the anchor woman faced the camera and said, In other developments, KNBC has learned that 2 police officers interviewed Mr. Sakamura earlier in the evening in connection with the case, but did not arrest him at the time. Captain John Connor and Lieutenant Smith may face disciplinary review by the department, with questions being raised of possible procedural violations. However, the good news is there are no longer delays for traffic moving southbound on the 101. Now over to you, Bob. I stared numbly at the TV. Disciplinary review. The phone rang. It was Ellen Farley again. You got all that? Yeah, I did. I can't believe it. What's it about, Ellen? None of this is coming from the mayor's office, if that's what you're asking. But the Japanese community has been unhappy with Graham before. They think he is a racist. It looks like he played right into their hands. I was there. Graham acted correctly. Yeah, I know you were there, Pete. Frankly, it's unfortunate. I don't want to see you tarred by the same brush. I said, Graham acted correctly. Are you listening, Pete? What about this suspension and disciplinary review? That's the first I heard of it, Ellen said. But that would be internally generated. It's coming from your own department. By the way, is it true? Did you and Connor see Sakamura last night? Yes. And you didn't arrest him? No, we didn't have probable cause to arrest him when we talked to him. Later on, we did. Ellen said, Did we think he could have done this murder? I know he did. We have it on tape. On tape? Are you serious? Yeah, we have the murder on videotape from one of the Nakamoto security cameras. She was silent for a while. I said, Ellen. Look, Ellen said. Off the record, okay? Sure. I don't know what's going on here, Pete. There's more than I understand. Why didn't you tell me who the girl was last night? I'm sorry about that. I had a lot to take care of. Ellen. A silence. Then, Pete, this girl got around. She knew a lot of people. Did she know the mayor? Silence. How well did she know him? Listen, Ellen said. Let's just say she was a pretty girl and she knew a lot of people in this town. Personally, I thought she was unbalanced, but she was good looking and she had a hell of an effect on men. You had to see it to believe it. Now there's a lot of irons in the fire. You saw the Times today? No. Take a look. If you ask me, you want to be very correct the next couple of days. Do your I's and cross your T's. Do everything by the book. And watch your back, okay? Okay, thanks, Helen. Don't thank me. I didn't call. Then her voice got softer. Take care of yourself, Peter. I heard a dial tone. Daddy, just a minute, Shell. Can I watch cartoons? Sure, honey. I found her a station with some cartoons and walked into the living room. I opened the front door and picked up the Times from the mat. It took me a while to find the story. On the last page of the Metro section, charges of police racism cloud Japanese feet. I skimmed the first paragraph. Japanese officials of the Nakamoto Corporation complained about callous and insensitive police behavior, which they said detracted from a star-studded opening night at their new skyscraper on Figueroa. At least one Nakamoto's official expression expressed the view that the police actions were racially motivated. A spokesperson said, We do not believe the Los Angeles Police Department would behave in the fashion if a Japanese corporation were not involved. We feel strongly that the actions of the police reflected a double standard for treatment of Japanese at the hands of American officials. Mr. Hiroshi Ogura, chairman of the board of Nakamoto, was present at the party, which drew such celebrities as Madara and Tom Cruise, but he could not be reached for comment on the incident. A spokesman said, Mr. Ogura is deeply disturbed that official hostility should mar this gathering. He very much regrets the unpleasantness that occurred. According to observers, Mayor Thomas sent a staff member to deal with the police, but with little result. The police did not modify their behavior, despite the presence of the Special Japanese Liaison Officer, Lieutenant Peter Smith, whose job is to diffuse racially sensitive situations, and so on. You had to read 4 paragraphs before you discovered that a murder had occurred. That particularly detail seemed to be almost irrelevant. I looked back at the lead. The story was from the city news service, which meant there was no byline. I felt angry enough to call my old contact at the Times, Kenny Shubik. Ken was the leading Metro reporter. He had been at the paper forever, and he knew everything that was going on, since it was still 8 in the morning. I called him at home. Ken, Pete Smith. "Oh, hi," he said. "Glad you got my message." In the background, I heard what sounded like a teenage girl. "Oh, come on, Dad. Why can't I go?" Ken said, "Jennifer, let me talk here for a minute." "What message?" I said. Ken said, "I called you last night because I thought you ought to know right away." He's obviously working off a tip. "But do you have any idea what's behind it?" "Behind what?" I said. I didn't know what he was talking about. "I'm sorry, Ken. I didn't get your message." "Really?" he said. "I called you about 11:30 last night. The DHD dispatcher said you had rolled out on a case, but you had a car phone. I told her it was important, and for you to call me at home, if necessary, because I felt sure you'd want to know." In the background, the girl said, "Dad, come on. I have to decide what to wear." "Jennifer, damn it," he said. "Chill out." To me, he said, "You have a daughter, don't you?" "Yeah," I said, "but she's only 2. "Just wait," Ken said. "Look, Pete, you really didn't get my message?" "No," I said. "I'm calling about something else. The story in this morning's paper." "What story?" "The Nakamoto coverage on page 8. The one about callous and racist police. At the opening." "Geez, I didn't think we had a Nakamoto story yesterday." "I know Jody was doing the party, but that won't run until tomorrow. You know Japan draws the glitterati. Jeff didn't have anything on the skeds in Metro yesterday." "Jeff was the Metro editor," I said. "There's a story in the paper this morning about the murder." "What murder?" he said. His voice sounded odd. "There was a murder at Nakamoto last night, about 8:30. One of the guests was killed." Ken was silent, at the other end of the line, putting things together. Finally he said, "Were you involved?" Homicide called me in as Japanese liaison. Ken said. "Listen, let me get to my desk and see what I can find out. Let's talk in an hour. And give me your numbers so I can call you direct." "Okay." He cleared his throat. "Listen, Pete," he said. "Just between us, do you have any problems?" "Like what?" "Like a morals problem, or a problem with your bank account. Discrepancies about reported income. Anything I should know about as your friend." "No," I said. "I don't need the details. But if there's something that isn't quite right, nothing can. 'Cause if I have to go to bat for you, I don't want to discover I have stepped in shit." "Ken, what's going on?" "I don't want to go into detail right now, but offhand, I would say somebody is trying to fuck you in the ass," Ken said. The girl said, "Daddy, that's disgusting." "Well, you're not supposed to be listening." "Pete." "Yeah," I said, "I'm here." "Call me in an hour," Ken said. "You're a pal," I said. "I owe you." "Fucking right you do," Ken said. He hung up. I looked around the apartment. Everything still looked the same. Morning sunlight was still steaming into the room. Michelle was sitting in her favorite chair, watching cartoons and sucking her thumb. But somehow everything felt different. It was creepy. It was like the world had tilted, but I had things to do. It was also getting late. I had to get her dressed before Elaine came to take her to daycare. I told her that. She started to cry. so I turned off the television set, and she threw herself on the floor and began to kick and scream, "No, Daddy! Cartoons, Daddy!" I picked her up and slung her under an arm to the bedroom to get her changed. She was screaming at the top of her lungs. The phone rang again. This time it was the division dispatcher. "Morning, Lieutenant. I have your uncleared messages." "Let me get a pencil," I said. I put Michelle down. She cried even louder. I said, "Can you go pick out which shoes you want to wear today?" "Sounds like you got a murder there," the dispatcher said. "She doesn't want to get dressed for school." Michelle was tugging out my leg. "No, Daddy. No school, Daddy." "Yes, school," I said firmly. She bawled. "Go ahead," I said to the dispatcher. "Okay, 11:41 last night. You had a call from Ken Subotic, or Subotnik, LA Times. He said, please call him. Message reads, the Weasel is checking up on you. He said you would know what that meant. You can call him at home. You have the number? Yes. Okay, 1:42 a.m. this morning. You had a call from a Mr. Eddie looks like Sakamura. He said it's urgent. Please call him at home. 555-8434. It's about the missing tape, okay? Shit. I said, what time was that call? 1:42 a.m. The call was forwarded to County General, and I guess their switchboard couldn't locate you. You're at the morgue or something. Yeah. Sorry, Lieutenant. But once you're out of your car, we have to go through intermediates. Okay, anything else? Then at 6:43 a.m., Captain Connor left a beeper number for you to call. He said he's playing golf this morning. Okay. And at 7:10, we had a call from Robert Woodson, who is with Senator Morton's office. Senator Morton wants to meet you and Captain Connor at 1 o'clock today at the Los Angeles County's Country Club. He asks that you call and confirm that you will attend the meetings with the senator. I tried to reach you, but your phone was busy. Will you call the senator? I said I would call the senator. I told the dispatcher to page Connor for me at the golf course and have him call me in the car. I heard the front door unlocked. Elaine came in. Good morning, she said. I'm afraid Shelley isn't dressed yet. That's okay, she said. I'll do it. What time is Mrs. Davis coming to pick her up? We are waiting to hear. Elaine had been through this routine many times before. Come on, Michelle, let's pick your clothes for today. Time to get ready for school. I looked at my watch. It was on my way to get another cup of coffee when the phone rang. Lieutenant Peter Smith, please. It was the Assistant Chief, Jim Olson. Hi, Jim. Morning, Pete. He sounded friendly, but Jim Olson never called anybody before 10 o'clock in the morning. Unless there was a big problem, Olson said. Looks like we got ourselves a rattlesnake by the tail. You see the papers today? Yeah, I did. You happen to catch the morning news? Some of it. The chief's been calling me for damage control. I wanted to get where you stand before I make a recommendation, okay? Okay. I just got off the phone with Tom Graham. He admits last night was a prime screw-up. Nobody's covered in glory. I'm afraid not. A couple of naked broads impeded two able-bodied police officers and prevented apprehension of the suspect. Is that about it? It sounded ridiculous, I said. You had to be there, Jim. Uh-huh, he said. Well, one good thing so far. I've been checking if correct pursuit procedures were followed. Apparently they were. We have recordings off the computers, and we have voice recordings off the radio. And it's all strictly by the book. Thank God, nobody even swears. We can release those records to the media if this thing gets any worse. So we're covered there. But it's very unfortunate that Sakamura is dead, yes. Graham went back to get the girls, but the house was deserted. The girls were gone. I see. In all the rush, nobody got the names of the girls. No, I'm afraid not. That means we have no witnesses to the events in the house. So we are a little vulnerable. They're cutting Sakamura's body out of the wreck this morning. The ship was left to the morgue. Graham tells me, as far as he's concerned, the case is wrapped up. I gather there are videotapes that show Sakamura killed the girl. Graham says he is ready to file his concluding 579 report. Is that how you see it? The case closed? I guess so, Chief. Sure. Then we can shut this fucker down, the chief said. The Japanese community finds the Nakamoto's inquiry irritating and offensive. They don't want it to continue any longer than necessary. So if we can call it a day, it would help. It's okay with me, I said. Let's call it a day. Well, that's good, Pete, the chief said. I'm going to speak to the chief. See if we can head off any disciplinary actions. Thanks, Jim. Try not to worry. Myself, I don't see a disciplinary issue. As long as we have videos that show Sakamura did it. Yeah, we do. About those videos, he said. I've had Marty looking in the evidence locker. He can't seem to find them. I took a deep breath and said, No, I have them. You didn't log them in the evidence locker last night? No, I wanted to get copies made. He coughed. Pete, it'd be better if you had followed procedure on that. I wanted to get copies made, I said. Tell you what, Jim said. Get your copies made and get the originals onto my desk by 10 o'clock, okay? Okay. It can't take that long to locate the material from the evidence locker. You know how it is. He was saying he would cover for me. Thanks, Jim. Don't thank me, because I didn't do anything, he said. For as I know, procedure has been followed. Right. But just between you and me, get it done right away. I can hold the fort for a couple of hours, but something's going on down here. I don't know exactly where it's coming from, so don't push it, okay? Okay, Jim. I'm on my way now. I hung up the phone and went to get copies made.